Hi there, I'm doing this video this morning just to throw some ideas around about a couple of people who are very, very popular within truth circles and, sort of people that we look up to as having the potential to bring about change, and they are Ken O'Keefe and Michael Tellinger. I think it's important that we examine the ethics of those that we follow, and actually what's happened in society and actually in the world in general is that we have been trained into thinking that we actually need to follow other people and that other people might have the answer. And you see that in political circles and with political parties, and the fact that actually we have a government which governs us and tells us what to do, even though we never personally elected them, and although we never, from birth, we never said, actually, I give over my rights of sovereignty to you to rule over me and tell me when to do things and how to do things, and if I don't, you threaten to fine me or take away my liberty. So going right back to the beginning, we have actually been trained into thinking that that's what we need. And so then what happens is that these people come through, and actually I'm sure that they have absolutely the best interests of people at heart, and these people are really, really passionate about what they believe in. But, let's face it, power does tend to always pretty much create a situation where people become a little bit, megalomaniac, and they start to kind of believe their bullshit too much. And I'm not saying that that's the case with these two people, but it is something that we see, when people get a bit of power. So, we're living in times where we don't have any really, really great role models to look up to. So obviously these kind of people come through on a grassroots level and they gain a following, and we all look up to them, and you actually see it all over social media, all over Facebook, all over YouTube, where people are given this kind of celebrity following. And I think it's really important that we kind of question the ethics of the people we follow, because if we want to follow somebody, and that's all very well and good, they're people that we admire, we look up to, and we're getting some great information from these people. They're sharing stuff with us, we're learning, and it makes us feel that we're united in some kind of common cause. So I'm not dissing it, full stop, but I'm just saying, let's look at the ethics, let's look at the way that these people live their lives. So, Ken O'Keefe, I know, does not eat animals. He's not a meat eater. I'm not sure if he's vegan, and I think it's really important to be pushing these people to go vegan, because in actual fact, otherwise, what's happening is that they're supporting industries that are really, really cruel. And also, how can we expect to be free if we are basically condoning the enslavement of other beings through the dairy industry? So this isn't just a meat issue. Going vegetarian really isn't enough, unfortunately, because, the truth of it is that animals are slaughtered and killed in the most disgusting ways within the meat industry. It's absolutely barbaric. Then we look at the fur industry, where these animals are literally skinned alive. It's absolutely despicable and disgusting. And in terms of natural law, we are incurring huge amounts of collective karma by continuing to condone these practices, and actually by not doing anything to bring about change and to actually cease them happening. So by going vegan, you are actually reducing the demands for meat and dairy, and over time, when you reduce the demand, that actually reduces the amount of animals that are killed and enslaved. So really, really important. So great, Ken O'Keefe does not eat meat. If anyone knows whether he's vegan, I'd be really interested to find out. So could you leave a comment or send me a private message, because that'd be great. And the other one, and I happen to know sort of, the lowdown on this guy, because I attended the Ubuntu UK meeting up in London a few months ago, and it was all going really, really well, and Michael Tellinger's got some really interesting historical information, and that's all great. But I was deeply shocked and disgusted when about 3/4 of the way through the meeting, when he was starting to sort of push Ubuntu and talk about how we could, create an Ubuntu system within the UK. I mean, for a start, I'm not into it because it's a political party, and, we have seen this before. When has politics ever helped? The truth is that we need to be governing ourselves through our own morality and our own moral compass, and we need to kind of come together as a collective, coming from that good and loving place, from a place of universal love. and attempt to raise the consciousness of people on the planet. And one of the ways that we can do that is through spreading the message of veganism, and obviously I'm really, really passionate about that. So anyway, Michael Tellinger suggested that one of the ways that we could finance, bearing in mind that Michael Tellinger did say initially that he was really, really against money and the use of money, and that we should go back to a situation where we kind of, swap skills and we swap goods, and, on a voluntary basis, which actually I totally agree with, because I think although there'd be the odd sort of mind-controlled selfish person who wouldn't share, the majority of human beings would look to share and work as a collective. Like, I really believe that to be true. But anyway, so initially he said, no, he's totally against money, doesn't want money. But then he said, and he made a point which could actually be quite valid, we need to get money to get out of the monetary system. So we need to opt in, get as much money as we can so that we can opt out. And I mean, that is actually true. We do need to get some money together so that we can buy the tools that we need, so we can get the things that we need to start off, these sustainable projects where we live closest to the lands and we grow our own food and we live in a sustainable and self-sufficient way without the need for government. So, I totally understand where he was coming from, but what was really, really horrific was to hear him suggest that one of the ways that we could do that would be farming fish and using horses for horsehair, and that is absolutely not on. I'm really surprised how many people were not horrified by that. I mean, he's talking about farming fish on an industrial scale. One of the things that we're trying to get away from is the farming of other species for our benefit. It's absolutely not on in terms of natural law, not on in terms of just basic morality, and just not okay. And I'm sure that anyone who sort of takes the time to really think about it will agree that it's unacceptable to be doing so. So, Michael Tellinger, I mean, what are you saying? What are you doing? I did actually have to leave the meeting at that point, because at that point, to me, he just proved himself as somebody who does not have the courage of his convictions. Does he mean it? For me, no. I'd like to hear what anyone else has got to say, and I sort of want to remain open-minded about it. I mean, maybe if Michael Tellinger has got some kind of strong ideas as to why fish farming is okay, I'd be open to hearing about that. But on the face of it, I really just don't see how it's okay. So yeah, they're the couple of people that I wanted to discuss this morning. But actually, there are so many of these people popping up all over the place who are spreading the word on kind of morality, on consciousness, on what we can do to bring forward this paradigm shift, on what we can do to kind of make changes. And for me, the first stage of consciousness is to be conscious of what you do. So even before you have that kind of spiritual leap and you start to kind of awaken your third eye and you start to live beyond the five senses, surely there is that elevation of understanding, that first level of consciousness where you think, how am I living my own life? What am I doing in my own life? And surely hurting by, whether you're doing it yourself or not, whether you're going out and hunting that animal, or even worse, if you're actually paying money to other people to kill that animal for you, which is what's happening within the meat industry. Anyone who's not looking at that, anyone who's not looking at the enslavement of other beings through the dairy industry, it's questionable as to how much consciousness they have. And if they're spreading the message to millions of people and thousands of people, which these people are, then I don't think there's anything wrong with asking them questions about what do they think about the meat industry? What do they think about eating meat? What do they think about the dairy industry? I get so many messages and, comments from people all the time saying, it finally dawns on me, how can I be eating animals? And that was my experience as well. When I woke up, suddenly it was like, I cannot call myself an ethical being and eat another being. It's just not okay. So I think we really do need to be asking these questions of the people that we follow. And also we need to be asking ourselves questions about how important is it actually to be following another person. And because we can follow our own, guidance. We have our guidance within us. Human beings have huge intuition. All beings have intuition built in. And unfortunately, the establishment and the control system has separated from us from who we truly are, from our true consciousness, which is already there within us. So yeah, I hope this video has been of interest, and I'd love to hear what you think about it, and whether you think that it's important that we do question the ethics of the people that we follow. And yeah, I'd love to hear what you think about Ken O'Keefe and Michael Tellinger. Thanks a lot for watching. Please like the video and subscribe.